Welcome to a new planetary and seismic update. You look at the SGI graph from the previous time frame, from the 18th to the 27th of July. In the previous video I marked the lunar peaks on the 19th, 20th, followed by a near convergence of two planetary conjunctions with Mercury red, Venus purple, and then we had the two lunar peaks here on 24th, 25th, which I estimated would probably see the strongest seismic activity. So let's have a look. We do see temporal clustering with both lunar peaks. At peak magnitude 6 at Vanuatu, there was indeed a tight temporal cluster of stronger earthquakes, but no large earthquake there. That actually happened this morning with a magnitude 6.8. Actually, it started early this morning with a bunch of magnitude 5.8, including a doublet in southern China, 5.8 earthquakes, 5.9 offshore Chiapas, Mexico, and then the 6.8 here Kyushu, Japan. A strong earthquake. And here you see the earthquake southern Japan. Japan itself reported 7.1, but this is on the Japanese magnitude scale, GMA, which is slightly different scale from the moment magnitude scale. This is used internationally by the USGS, EMSC, GFC and the likes. So there may be slight differences in magnitude, which you will see in reports, but a high 6, borderline 7, that's what happened this morning. And I added additional warning in social media, Facebook and X, late on the 26th, that there could be a stronger seismic event coming up because we passed the lunar peaks on the 24th, 25th that I emphasized in the previous update. Those lunar peaks, they followed on the near convergence of the two planetary peaks, and it's that sequence that counts. So it took a bit, but there it was early this morning, 6.8. And also note the 5.8 doublet in China. This should not be underestimated. This could be precursor activity. I'm not saying that there will be a large earthquake, but it could be precursor activity given the history of big earthquakes in southern China, southeastern China, Assam, Tibet. 1897 comes to mind, magnitude 8, and also 1950, Assam 8.6. These are big earthquakes. It's been over 70 years. There's pressure from the Indian subcontinent against the Himalayan mountain range. There's also pressure coming from the Pacific, and that's why this geological feature here near Tibet is so curved. There is a bend here, and this is definitely because of the pressure coming from the Pacific. So there can be large earthquakes from time to time. It depends on the stress levels. Complex geological setting here. There can be larger seismic activity. Okay, let's have a look at the geometry that we're going to have from today, the 28th, until the 6th of August. A lot of labels that I put here, 2 rows of labels just for the 29th, because a lot is going to happen tomorrow with the full moon. And I will go quickly to the solar system here. If you want to see the details of that geometry, you can also look up the website later on, where I will post the SSGI graph with all the details. So let's have a look. We're going to have a full moon. We know that's tomorrow afternoon. But Jupiter happens to be on the other side at the same time, practically. So we're going to have a quadruple conjunction, pretty exact, of the Moon, Earth, Sun and Jupiter. And this is all happening between 14 and 1500 hours UTC time tomorrow afternoon. A tight convergence, a critical one, because the largest bodies in the solar system, the Sun and Jupiter, are involved here. But that's not all. We have additional geometry because Earth makes a 90-degree angle with both Venus and Mars at the same time. And on top of that, and you cannot make this up, but what happens at the same time is that the moon happens to be on the other side of those 90 degrees, which means that the moon makes 135 degrees with both Venus and Mars also at the same time. And you can see how tight that convergence is. It starts at 12:22 tomorrow afternoon until 14:44, and there is only 15 minutes in between certain geometries. And then also we have Venus making 45 degrees with Mercury and Neptune. Those are the purple lines. And it's all converging tomorrow. Critical geometry. And if we look at the 135 degrees, we had that last week as well with that geometry on the 24th, 25th that I emphasized. It is quite similar, but it's not the full moon. We have the moon here in opposition with Mars and with Uranus, and the Earth almost making 90 degrees with Mercury and Saturn at the same time. And we see that in the morning of the 24th, indeed, we also had 135 degrees, both with Mercury and with Saturn. And this is beautiful symmetry from a geometry point of view, but it can also result in larger seismic activity, especially when stronger, larger planets are involved. And that's the case in this particular instance with the full moon, 90 degrees with Venus and with Mars from Earth, and the moon happens to be on the other side. And again, this is such a tight convergence. So if you look at this high peak, there's a lot happening here. There can be an obvious seismic response on the 30th, around the time of full moon. That could be later tomorrow, but on the 30th and 31st there could be an obvious seismic response depending on the stress levels in Earth's crust. But as we had last week, a sequence of critical geometry, we have this grouping here from the 2nd to the 4th in particular, involving both the planets, Mercury, Venus, and also the moon. These are the green peaks. And on the 1st also Sun, Mercury, Neptune, and Sun, Mercury, Saturn, in addition to this geometry. If I look at the whole picture here, the largest seismic activity might happen around the 6th, 5, 6, 7 August, but there's no guarantee. It depends on the stress levels in Earth's crust. That's the condition of Earth's crust. It could also be here on the 30th or the 31st, but I think 30th, 31st, and then the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, there could be temporal clustering of stronger earthquakes. And there could be a larger event around the 6th. This is the 3rd quarter of the moon. Now I'll address the geometry here from the 2nd to the 4th because that is really critical. It comes after the already critical peak here on the 29th. A lot is going to happen in the coming week in this respect. Let's have a look at the solar system again. We have Venus, Mercury, Mars and Uranus in a near quadruple conjunction. You should not underestimate that. And as a result, we're going to have multiple planetary conjunctions generated by the near quadruple conjunction, like Venus, Mercury, Mars, Venus, Mars, Uranus, etc., etc. And on top of that, we have the moon in opposition with Venus and in a conjunction with Neptune and with Saturn. Very critical geometry. And also the Sun, Mercury, Neptune and Sun, Mercury, Saturn. This is a pretty tight convergence from the 1st, 2nd to the 4th of August. Now let me give you an example, especially because of this Venus, Mercury, Mars, Uranus near quadruple conjunction. There is an example of similar geometry where Mars, Venus was flipped. And that was in 1964 at the time of full moon. Mars, Mercury, Venus and Uranus. And when there is critical stress in a large fault section, we can have a pretty large earthquake. This was on 28 March UTC time, 1964, magnitude 9.2, the 2nd largest earthquake on record. Not a coincidence. But you have to do the observational research. We have similar geometry and possibly equally critical. However, it depends on the stress levels in Earth's crust, how large the seismic activity is going to be. It can be in the 7 magnitudes. We could have borderline 7, higher 7 or larger. And we could have 1 or 2 events in the coming week because we have really critical geometry coming up. Okay, so that's what we're going to have. Again, 30th, 31st, critical. And potentially around the 6th, give or take 1 day. I think those are the most critical times. But with the convergence here on the 3rd, 4th, we already should be on watch on potential larger seismic activity. We could see the typical temporal clustering of the higher 5, borderline 6. We could have a couple of 6s in here, but maybe 1 or 2 larger events as well. If there's going to be an obvious seismic increase in the coming week, you might say, where is this coming from? Well, just look at the positions of the planets and the moon. So this is what we're going to have in the coming week. Be on extra alert. There's going to be critical geometry coming up with the full moon tomorrow and also from the 2nd to the 4th of August. And that could result in pretty large seismic activity. Check out the website and also social media channels for the latest updates. Stay safe everyone, and until next time.